Hey, welcome back to She Speaks Life. I'm so excited you are here. We are doing a series this month called Fuel Your Life with topics on getting healthier for our 2025 this year. Today, I have with me Shemane Nugent. She is married to the infamous rocker Ted Nugent. She is a New York Times bestselling author, documentary filmmaker, and host of Faith and Freedom. Shemane has become a powerful voice in the realms of faith, fitness, and wellness, and her influence continues to grow as she shares her message of holistic health and unshakable faith. Shemane has over 40 years as a fitness expert and is an advocate for natural wellness and shares faith-based health strategies for our busy lifestyles. And after surviving a life-threatening illness caused by toxic mold, she turned to natural remedies and transformed her life and mission. We talk all about that and some simple tips on how to get healthy for 2025 and why it's so important to make those changes now and not wait. So let's dive into my conversation. Here's my guest, Shemane Nugent. Hey, Shemane, welcome to She Speaks Life. I'm so excited you are here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This is going to be a great message. You had written a book called Abundantly Well, Bible-based wisdom for weight loss, increased energy, and vibrant health. And so I just love that you have this heart behind why you're so passionate about helping others to live their best, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally as well. And you have a fantastic show yourself, podcast called Faith and Freedom. And we can view that on Rumble and across all the platforms. And you have some well-known names on there, which is amazing. And I got to see that you're an avid hunter. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's been quite a whirlwind. I never thought I'd meet and marry a guy named Ted Nugent. We are in certain ways polar opposite. I never went to a rock and roll concert when I met him, didn't know any of his music, and never hunted, never touched a gun. So here I am 36 years later.
And for those that don't know Ted Nugent, I don't know, you may be living under a rock, but he's the infamous rocker. And I remember my kid playing Guitar Hero and having one of his songs on that game.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
So we are here, we're going to talk about your passion with living healthy. Tell us more about your heartbeat in this. Why this message on health? Why is it so important to you?
Well, I think those things that bring us to our knees bring us closer to God. And when I got sick and almost died from toxic mold poisoning between the walls of my home that was once featured on MTV Cribs, I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't figure out. I went to dozens of doctors. I had debilitating migraines, everything from insomnia to short-term memory loss. I also I've been a fitness instructor since 1980, and I was once named Detroit's most physical female. So to have that abundance of health and then slowly, suddenly decline, and I was eating kale 20 years ago. I was exercising every single day, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I had to become my own sleuth, investigative sleuth, to find out what was really going on when doctors just kept telling me, take some more medication, try this medication, try that medication. And I didn't want to be, a guinea pig and try and figure it out. Plus, God has provided us with everything that we need. I knew I was missing something. And when I discovered that I had 4 different types of mold in my bloodstream, and I also had pre-emphysema and I didn't smoke, there was something else going on. So my whole world changed when I got sick. I was in the hospital for a month, and I vowed that if I ever, again, it brought me to my knees. I couldn't take care of my young son. And it's one thing when you get sick, but when you have children that are relying on you, and I remember all I wanted to do one day was make him my son Rocco, make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I didn't have the energy to do that. And there was another
Mhm.
time when he was running a track meet. And I remember just the simple fact of getting out of bed. Remember, I was a fitness instructor, like Detroit's most physical female, bouncing all over the walls. I, the concept of getting out of bed, getting in a car, driving to his school. And then I looked at the bleachers to walk up the bleachers, thought it was a daunting task. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
We are motivated by those people in our lives that bring us joy and that we have to provide for and care for. And again, I made a commitment to God that if I found out what was going on with me and if this could help anybody else, I'm going to share the heck out of it. So that's why I wrote this book, Abundantly Well.
Yeah, it's no joke, that mold. I had a friend, her whole family got it. They actually rented, they were waiting for a home to be built. So they were renting a cute little place in Laguna Beach, California. And just the mold was behind the walls. And they discovered later because they were getting asthma. It was a huge investigation on why their health was suddenly declining after living there for a, almost a year. And so it affected them radically, and it had a repercussions afterwards. It's not like they moved out and they're fine. I mean, they really had to go through a lot of extensive therapy and medical intervention to get well again. So it's no joke. That is very serious stuff, and it's hidden too, which is kind of scary.
And
So,
you don't always see it and you don't always smell it. And that's
right.
the problem. And I think it's different with women than especially with children. We make excuses for why
Mhm.
we don't feel good. Oh, I just have a headache. I'm too stressed. I actually went to doctors. I went to this one doctor, I'll never forget, Dr. Ty in Michigan. And at that time, I was teaching all these fitness classes, eating healthy, in the best shape of my life. And he said, well, maybe you're too healthy. Maybe you should start eating at McDonald's and stop working out so much.
Oh my goodness.
So again, it's the problem is with medicine. They're practicing. There are good doctors out there who truly want to help us, but they don't spend a lot of time in medical school on environmental illness, toxic mold. And then, I really hope that with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. making America healthy again, we will start to put an emphasis on God made food and things
Mhm.
like, eating an apple a day. I got banned on TikTok or Twitter for that. Talk during the
Mhm.
pandemic, talking about being healthy, getting vitamin D from the sun, not
Mhm.
fueling our body with food that's in a box on a shelf for months or even years. So this book, this
Mhm.
Abundantly Well, it might sound complicated, but it's not. No matter where you're at in your journey of health, if you've never worked out before, I want to be your cheerleader. I want to be your constant companion. If you work out all the time, God bless you. There are probably still some areas, with mind, body, and spirit that you might not feel comfortable in your own skin, or maybe you're just starting this
Mhm.
journey in faith. And I want to be right there by your side too, because I understand what it's like to lose your health. And also to be overweight. And when I was in college, I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. I still struggle with that. I like food. I'm just going to be honest.
Me
So
too.
I'm never going to ask people to do something that I don't do. I can't spend 2 hours a day in the gym. I don't have the time. I
Mhm.
don't have time to cook gourmet meals, but I have some shortcuts on how to eat healthier and how to do food swaps that could really help you in the pockets of your time for whatever level of busyness you're at. I get it. I've been there. And the most important thing, Jamie, I think, is that we've got to give ourselves grace. Wherever you're at right now, maybe you have one kid, two kids, five kids, 10 kids, grandkids, or you're a healthcare provider. My mom just had a stroke a couple of months ago, and I understand
Mhm.
how it is. you can't help those people in your life unless you're healthy. So let's say you don't even you're not getting ready for bikini season. I'm not. I just want to be healthy. I just want to have energy so I can do the things that I love to do with the people I love in my life and help them.
Well, your book shows it. I mean, it is loaded, packed full. It's a 40-day journey, a plan to encourage us. And let's go through some of the wellness tips. I really love that you combine faith. You have scripture verses and prayer and every day because it's true. It's all connected. Our spiritual, our physical, emotional, everything is connected. And I can't emphasize there's so much that starts here in our mind and making good choices. And it's connected with our spiritual and our relationship with the Lord, spending time with him, diving into his word and praying and just that's our lifestyle. It should be our lifestyle all throughout the day, 24/7. So, how has partnering with God really helped turn your life around? And then we'll dive into some of your wellness tips. I'd written down some days that I would love for us to talk about that I think will be really good for people to hear.
Well, I appreciate that, the kind words. Thank you so much. And, our journeys here are not easy. I am certainly not perfect. I have dealt with some trials and tribulations, as everybody else has too. I write about them in my book so that the reader can understand. Look, I'm not coming at this from a place where, everything's perfect in my world, because it's not. In fact, when I wrote about a situation in my marriage that brought me to my knees, and I never thought I'd see the other side of it. I never thought I couldn't foresee how to get through this. And that situation, when somebody says something to you, or if you lost a loved one, or you lose your job, or whatever it is, it has a physiological effect on your body. It feels like Mike
Mhm.
Tyson punching you in the gut. I mean, really punching you in the gut. But
Yeah.
that had set me up. That situation that I read about in the book had set me up before I got sick from toxic mold. So it was like a double whammy. And my
Mhm.
emotional state was depleted. My spiritual life was depleted. I was depressed. And
Mhm.
I didn't know how I could get through it. My faith started. I remember just asking God. I remember just saying, I just want to go home. And
Mm.
at that point, I didn't know what that meant. So I put my nose in the Bible whenever I'm feeling a pang of sadness for whatever situation it is, or just I'm confused, or I need more enlightenment, wisdom. That's one thing that I pray for every single day: wisdom and discernment, because the enemy is out there to steal, kill, and destroy, and he'll do whatever it takes. So God is my constant companion now, and my prayer life has exploded. I just know that my walk has really been strengthened since and because of the difficulties in my life, getting sick and almost dying, trials and
Mhm.
tribulations from betrayals in my life, whether it's in business or my
Mhm.
personal life. Those things strengthen us at the end of the day, don't you think?
Yes, amen to that. I mean, that's where we learn and grow is through the hardships and the trials. And I 100% agree with that. And I think back of all the times that I went through those trials and how that drew me closer to God because we really don't know that we need God sometimes until everything kind of gets stripped away, and then it's like, oh, I need God. We need him every single day. And it's those God required moments where we're, just sitting in, our circumstances and we really need God to help us get through. And, we want to be with him and partner with him every single day and feel that closeness every single day. And I think with us going through those hardships, it really makes us realize that God's our security, God's our rescuer and our refuge. And so, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's definitely some catalysts in everybody's lives when we go through hard times to turn our face to God. So let's talk about your book. You have covered so much, but I was going to start with the acronym GEAR. I thought that was so great. I've written down several days that I thought we could chat about, but if you wanted to expand on gear, if you think that's a good one we can talk about, that'd be awesome.
Well, yes, there's a lot, and you know what? It's like when I read the Bible, sometimes I read with a purpose. I'm going to grab my book right here, but sometimes I read with a purpose, like I want to read the Bible in a year, or I want to do a study, or I just open it up and something speaks to me. And
Mm-hmm.
in my book, I did write about gear because I think it's really important to get prepared and to
Yeah.
get ready, because a lot of times I know I end up being super rushed in the morning if I'm not prepared and I'm not ready. If I don't have my workout clothes laid out for me, or just the clothes that I'm going to be wearing, I think that's super important. I'm going to turn to what day do you have that on? I have home or gym.
Oh, I think it's three.
I got it. I got it. Okay. I
Yeah.
knew it was up.
Yeah.
I knew it was up close. So, um, get ready. We have to lay out our clothes. We have to get the intention, the mindset that we're going to, okay, we're going to work out, and set an
Mm-hmm.
intention. Some days aren't going to be, I usually start out at the beginning of the week with more energy. And so I try to make Monday or Tuesday a little bit more. I put a little bit more effort or maybe time into my workouts, and laying out your
Mm-hmm.
clothes that night, the night before you're going to work out, your shoes, your water bottle, everything that you need. So if you're going to just go out for a run, it's all right there. You're going to go to the gym, maybe throw your gym bag in the car so it's there and you have no excuses. And then
Mm-hmm.
equip yourself. If you're saying, oh, my feet hurt, which mine do, sometimes you just need to invest in a new pair of running shoes, and they're not that expensive these days. I just went to, there's a Skechers shop locally, and I just went there and picked up a great pair of running shoes for $35. Doesn't have to be that expensive. Yoga mat, water bottle, dumbbells, or those, if you're traveling, I like sometimes to travel with those tubes that you can just
Yeah.
throw in your suitcase, and then there's also things like gliding discs. If you get
Mm-hmm.
really, I talk about that in the book too. There's some kinds of exercises where you can slide your legs out. You don't have to get the gliding disc. You can also use paper plates on a wood
Yeah.
floor or tile floor. That'll help.
Mm-hmm.
But then you could go all out, get a treadmill, get an exercise bike, those kinds of things. So attitude, GEA, A is for attitude, having a positive mindset. Again, we have to give ourselves grace. We all fall short. I've been a fitness instructor since 1980. I have taught thousands of classes all over the world, in Australia, London, Paris, every state, Canada, everywhere. Thousands of classes. Do you know how many times I've had a perfect class, meaning no mistakes, the music, the lighting was great.
Yeah.
I do choreography. I'm a Zumba instructor now, which means I teach about 17 songs in 1 hour. That means
Wow.
choreography for each song. It's really complicated. It's fun though, and I love it. Perfect class out of thousands of class, maybe half a dozen. We have to give
Yes.
ourselves grace.
Yeah.
So we have to listen to our bodies. And I think it's really
Um,
important to, give yourself grace. If you're not feeling it that one day, fine. Especially as we age, our bodies change so much. And
mhm.
that's one of the great things.
I
So go ahead.
I gotta I gotta tell you, I'm a workout instructor since 2018, and I did it for a few years, and then when COVID hit, they went to Zoom, and I just didn't feel like that was the same. And the gym, wouldn't allow people in their gym during COVID, obviously. And so I stopped then. I just thought, oh, that's not my season. But I do my home workouts and love that. So when you're talking about teaching a workout class, I totally understand. It's not
What do you
perfect
teach?
every time.
What do you
I
teach?
taught body sculpt, so it was, weights, compound strength. I never did Zumba. I did teach a little bit of bar,
Yep.
Pilates, did cycling, but I would sub in. My main one was compound strength with weights and the dumbbells, and teaching the women uh, classes in that area, and then I'd sub for the other ones. So
Well, good for you. That's awesome.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's
I
awesome.
enjoyed it. I
You
some
know,
I sometimes miss it, but yeah.
people have asked me, what's your favorite workout? Well, I did develop a program for Zumba called Zumba in the Circuit. Traveled around the world teaching that, training instructors. So I am kind of partial to that. But I like to swim and I like to ski. I like to go for walks
Mhm.
with my dogs. So I think again, a variety is very good. Again, especially as
Yeah.
we age, because we're setting our muscles up. If you only run, your muscles are probably going to be tight. You need to do some type of stretching and relaxation. So,
Yeah.
um, and then, okay, I'll just skip to the R, GEAR. The
Mhm.
R is for routine. I think it's really important that you do have a warm up. If you're going to be running, as a fitness instructor, you can't just go into lifting weights. You have to generate warmth in your body and get the blood flowing to the outer limbs, and have some type of routine where there's a warm up, there's some cardio in there, or strength training. Even if you're strength training, it can be cardio because you can move from one exercise to the next. Your heart rate's going to
Mhm.
elevate if you're lifting. If you're doing squats, for example, even with body weight, your heart rate's going to elevate for that. But then also have
Mhm.
a cool down. Make sure you stretch and have a cool down at the end. So that was gear.
Yes. Well, I love that because it was in the beginning, it was chapter 3, and it just gets you ready, on your mark, get set, go.
Yeah.
And I think, since, it could be as simple as that acronym, we need to remind ourselves that those tips are very important, because like I was saying, it all starts in the mind. So if we're setting out our clothes, we're already making that decision the
Yeah.
night before to get healthy in the morning. We're going to do this.
Yep.
And then your body goes with that thought, that decision, and it follows. And next thing you know, you're at the end of the day, you worked out, you ate healthy. Because for me, it's a domino. Like, if I'm not
Yes.
working out, then I'm eating horribly that day. If I
Yep.
work out, then I'm eating good. So
Yep.
so good. Okay. So I would love for you to tackle, let's go more inner, with forgiveness, because I think this was unexpected to see this in a day in a wellness book, but so great because it does affect us if we're living in unforgiveness. So
Yeah.
let's have you talk a little bit of what you have to say on forgiveness.
Well, if you think about, let's say you're going on a trip and you pack a suitcase, and we've all probably put a suitcase on the scale, and sometimes it weighs 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 or 50 pounds.
Yeah.
It weighs more. Think
Right.
about those those things that you endured when you were younger. It could be, in your adolescence or in your 20s or 30s, that you continue to think about as you get older. It's like carrying around that 20, 30, 40, 50 pound bag with you. And we have to give ourselves grace. None of us are perfect. And I know that the times when I say I beat myself up, but I think you know what that means. Like,
Mhm.
emotionally, it's the devil, trying to kill, steal, or destroy you, trying to break you down, to cut
Mhm.
you down. No, you don't. Why would you want to? I know what it's like to walk into a gym, a new gym, because I've taught I sometimes, well, I taught in Australia. I wasn't familiar with the language. I walked into the gym going, am I going to fit in here? So I understand what that's like. And we can keep that as a reminder that God's walking with us in our right hand. Just imagine you walking into that gym with Jesus. He's got you.
So great. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to share in this book? I had a couple of them. I had 5 steps to weight loss and then the Get Wild acronym. What are some other things that you would really want to share for those who, are wanting to get your book and something that really highlights in you right now?
Well, let me ask you, what was your favorite thing about it?
Well, but I did like fasting. That's very important spiritual principle for me is fasting. And I know you touched on intermittent fasting. There's all kinds of fasting. For me, I like to have these moments where if God places on my heart to do a fast, I'll do a fast. I always do one in the beginning of the year as a corporate fast with my church. I love how fast just gets rid of the junk, gets rid of the garbage, things that you need to get rid of. And I just did one recently, a 21-day fast. I did a 6 to 6. So I fasted from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And just that for 21 days afterwards, I had so much clarity. I had so much vision and it just cleared my mind. It just cleared up everything that I was maybe holding on to that I didn't realize I was holding on to, that I was maybe putting a heavy burden on myself where God was like, no, you need to release that, give it over to me. And so there was just a lot of things I came out of that fast with that was healthy. And so I think that is an important one and one of my favorites, but
I love that.
love
I
all of them. You have a lot of them, so it's good.
like you said, there are many ways to fast. As far as health wise, fasting, right. I don't know if you want to talk about the time that we're taping this, but it's 12:30 in my body and I haven't eaten yet. I usually like to not eat until like an early, or late lunch, like around 1. And so if you're doing an 18-hour fast per day ish, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'll have a bagel or an egg or whatever it is. And in the
Mhm.
morning, and I don't adhere to that fast, but I find that I feel lighter and I'm less, sometimes we get into a routine where make the breakfast and eat it,
Mhm.
it's good to break the fast, but to also give our body, our digestive system a break. Because if we put too
Yeah.
much effort, digestion is one of the most energy consuming activities that our bodies have. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, with all the chemicals and pesticides in our foods these days, I think it's good to take a break now and then, whether it's a,
Yeah.
24, 48-hour fast from food. I can't do that. I've done it before. I don't love it. I will be honest
Mhm.
with you, but I do like intermittent fasting.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, we're airing this out in the beginning of 2025. So I think as our takeaway, what would be uh your vision for 2025? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but just having this air at the beginning of the year, people are starting to think about what they want to see in their lives in 2025. Do you have anything you can share with us with that?
Well, I think the most important thing is that so many people, I've read statistics that 50, 60, 70% of people create New Year's resolutions, but most of us don't stick to them. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I've learned, that the difference between, let's say I'm 62 years old and I can do the splits. My husband can't because he hasn't been doing them all the time. But I'll
Yeah.
bet you that he could get better if I worked with him every day. Every day. Just the only difference between me and him is that I've done it all my life. Michael Jordan and somebody who plays basketball all the time, they've done it all their life. It becomes routine for them. So if we reverse engineer, say you want to lose 10 or 20 pounds, I think a time constraint is a good thing. Like, there's a wedding that you're going to go to, or a class reunion or something that gives us purpose, but also reverse engineering. Okay, what are you going to give up? What are the food swaps that you can give up? How much can you change your exercise routine? Doesn't mean you have to run a marathon. But one of the things that I talk about that I know that works for me is increasing the intensity, the duration, or the frequency with which we work out. For example, intensity meaning I'm going to run a mile. So I'm just going to run faster and harder. That would be increasing the intensity. The duration would be I'm going to run a mile and a half. Increasing the frequency, I'm going to run a mile every day or 3 times a week. And so if we look at reverse engineering that goal that we want to do, and we plan that into our schedule, it becomes almost effortless. And again, with the gear, we set aside, okay, we got a plan. We got to write it into our schedule, tell our family. And this is one thing that I'm slightly proud of myself for doing. I make exercise a priority in my life. A couple reasons. I know what it's like to get to that point where I'm 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 pounds overweight. I don't want to do that again. So I have to make baby steps. The other thing is I actually have scoliosis. It's not very drastic. It's more like a pivoting of my spine. If I don't move my body for a day or two, if I don't exercise or stretch, I can't move. So I have to do those things. So that would be my recommendation for people to have your goal, get a goal, like whether it's reading the Bible in a year, which I think I'm going to do that again this year. I've done that before. And every time I do, I've only done it a couple times, but you know how it is. Things speak to you differently. You had asked me when we started, what's your favorite Bible verse? Oh, it depends on what I'm going through at the time. But I always love Esther 4:14 because I am such an unlikely candidate for speaking out, especially in my faith. I'm not, there's so many people who are theologians and have a greater understanding of the Bible than I do. And I do also know that God chooses unlikely candidates to further his message. So if I can help people get healthier, have an abundance of health and wellness, and start to look for things in their life that is A, stressing them out, B, could be toxic mold that they might not think about, that could be giving them other health effects like headaches or chronic fatigue or insomnia or things like that. I guess that's why I went through those things, to help other people. So you don't have to.
God turns all things for good, right? To those that love him. And, what the enemy means for harm, God turns it into good. And it's always to, not just for us, but to encourage others, because he's all about others and relationships. And that is so good. I love all of that you shared with us. And you have another book coming out. Would you share with us with that?
Well, Abundantly Well is out now as you're sending this podcast out. January 7th was the launch date. But I do have another book that's already out called Killer House. And that book is all about toxic mold and how to recognize, remediate, and recover from it, which is very important because there's a statistic that 80% of homes and buildings have some form of mold. I would venture to guess it's 100%. And you might not. And I also have a chapter in there about spiritual warfare. Mold's written about in the Bible, right? So I do write about that in both my books, Abundantly Well and Killer House. But that Killer House is also available on Amazon. And I have a documentary out called, it's at killerhouse.org.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Where can we find you? Where can people follow you? Go ahead and just share all your places to buy your books and your website and where to watch your incredible show, Faith and Freedom.
Well, thank you. My Faith and Freedom show is on Real America's Voice. If you go to realamericasvoice.com, you click down the link for shows, and I'm on there. And it airs every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And I have had amazing guests. Like, I can't believe it. Everybody from Don Trump Jr. to Kirk Cameron, Candace Cameron Bure, Eric Metaxas, people from faith leaders, pastors, Dr. Ben Graham from Graham Family Films. We talk about everything from really faith and freedom of health and freedom to live our lives in the way that we want to, that God chose for us. And I think that's, to me, like, this is what it's all about. So yes, my show Faith and Freedom is on Real America's Voice, and you can find out everything about me. I'm on Instagram. I do some silly dancing videos sometimes on Instagram and Facebook, and my website is shemanenugent.rocks, ROCKS.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Shemane, for coming on here. It was such a pleasure to chat with you and get to know you more.
It's been a pleasure. I'd love to have you on my show, Jamie. Come on my show.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be a dream for sure.
Oh.
Sign me up.
Let's do it. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening today, and I trust that God has encouraged you through this story. Did you know this podcast is on YouTube? Hop on there and subscribe, and you can see a live recording of each episode. And for more information on this ministry and to access free downloads, please visit my website at jamieelizabeth.com. That's JAYME Elizabeth.com. And let's connect beyond this podcast by going to my Instagram handle, Jamie Elizabeth, She Speaks Life, or Facebook. Until next time, my friend, I hope God reveals himself through your own life story.